and we just suddenly heard a lot of gunfire.
Somewhere between 9 and 15 shots in a series.
Something like that.
That suggests to you that the weapon was a Glock 40.
That's correct.
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so we're continuing our coverage of the Duane Keffe D. Davis trial out in Las Vegas, the only person ever charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur, who we know was gunned down out in Las Vegas in 1996. Now, yesterday was the opening statements. It was day one of the trial. It was the beginning of witness testimony. The prosecution alleged
Tupac Shakur was hit by 4 bullets in the space of a few seconds. Only one of them would end his life 5 days later. And almost 30 years after that night on the Las Vegas Strip, a jury finally sat in a courtroom and heard exactly what those bullets did to his body. September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur is 25 years old, riding in a black BMW driven by Death Row Records founder Suge Knight, stopped at a red light on Las Vegas Boulevard. A white Cadillac pulls alongside, gunfire erupts, and seconds Shakur is hit 4 times.
That bullet entered in the lateral aspect of the right thigh and then went upwards into the abdomen and damaged his intestines. They ended up operating there and removed a portion of his intestines, and then during that surgery they recovered another projectile.
He's rushed to University Medical Center, where surgeons remove a damaged lung trying to save him.
To breathe and those types of things.
So the injury to the lung would have collapsed the lung and also caused the lung to bleed. And so it was documented within the medical records that he had about 2 liters of blood in his chest.
For 6 days he fights. On September 13th he's pronounced dead. For nearly 3 decades no one was charged.
a memoir, law enforcement interviews, statements that the prosecution claims Davis admitted to his involvement. Now,
the man accused of orchestrating it, Duane Keffe D. Davis, spent years talking about that night in interviews, in a memoir, even bragging to police.
Killing of Tupac Shakur, that it was because Shakur and others allegedly beat up his nephew, Orlando Anderson, earlier in the night at the...
He was never arrested for it until 2023. Now Davis sits in a Las Vegas courtroom, the only person ever charged in Tupac Shakur's murder. And on the second day of testimony, prosecutors call a witness whose job is to speak for a dead man, Dr. Lisa Gavin, a forensic pathologist who never actually touched Shakur's body.
Gavin, a forensic pathologist and medical examiner for Clark County. Now, she wasn't the original doctor who performed.
Then comes the piece of evidence prosecutors have been building toward, the MGM elevator footage. Grainy, degraded VHS tape from 1996, shown through investigator Michael Ingram, who authenticates what the video appears to capture Orlando Anderson allegedly being surrounded and beaten near the elevator banks, then fleeing across the casino.
The examiner uses the term homicide. What does that mean?
The simplest form is death at the hands of another.
Now, to be clear, evidence like this doesn't necessarily directly implicate Davis.
Homicide, death at the hands of another.
Homicide.
When a medical examiner uses the term homicide, what does that mean?
The simplest form is death at the hands of another.
Now,
that's not new information. Everyone already knew Tupac was murdered. What the jury needed was something the internet, the documentaries, and 30 years of rumor never actually gave them proof. Wound by wound, that ties a body to a bullet to a shooter. So the defense stands up and makes its first move. And it's not what you'd expect. Claim 1, this case is too old to trust. Defense attorney Michael Sanf presses Gavin on the fact that she's relying on records she didn't create, photographs shot on outdated film, an autopsy performed by a man who can no longer testify to a single detail himself.
He only took a few photos at the time of autopsy. At that time they used Polaroids, or they used film and cameras, and so we have...
The implication is simple. If the foundation is this shaky, how can anyone build a murder conviction on top of it? Collapse? On redirect, prosecutors ask her one question that flips the entire argument. Is anything actually missing from those records? No. The reason there are so few photos isn't sloppiness, it's 1996 technology. Crime scene photographers filled in the gaps. And there's one detail the defense can't get around. Dr. Gavin didn't just repeat what a dead man wrote down. She reviewed the raw evidence herself and reached her own independent conclusion.
Man, Mr. Sam suggested, and I just want to make it clear, you're not regurgitating Dr. Jordan's opinions. You formulated your own opinions as the cause and manner of death.
That is correct.
So as I talked about this initially,
The old case argument, the one meant to make the whole investigation feel unreliable, doesn't hold. Claim 2, the investigation was botched from hour 1. This is where it gets interesting, because the next witness practically hands the defense the evidence themselves. Sergeant Kenneth Rios, one of the first officers on scene at the MGM Grand earlier that same night, describes finding Orlando Anderson, Davis's nephew, allegedly just beaten by Shakur's entourage. Rios asks if he wants medical help. Anderson says no.
We asked him first if he needed medical assistance, and he refused. He said he was fine. I then asked him what happened, and he told me basically that a couple of guys that he didn't know jumped him. And once again, I asked him if he needed medical. He said no. I asked if he wanted to file a report, and he said no.
Ask if he wants to file a report. Anderson says no. So no report gets written, not that night, not for hours. Collapse, but not the one you'd expect. Under cross-examination, Rios admits he didn't write his report immediately, doesn't remember exactly when, doesn't know if anyone pulled more surveillance footage. It sounds damning. But here's what the defense can't erase. A victim who refuses to cooperate isn't unusual, and a delayed report doesn't undo what the camera's already caught.
It's not. Basically, if you don't have a victim, you don't have a crime, as we put it, which isn't necessarily.
The sloppiness argument lands a hit, but it doesn't land the knockout the defense needs. Now the story moves outside, into the chaos of the shooting itself, and this is where the trial stops being about paperwork and starts becoming about human memory under pressure. William Hyde was working hotel security that night, 3 floors up in a parking garage, chasing stolen vans with 2 Metro officers when gunfire erupts below. Not one shot, a storm of them. He describes it as volleys, 3 separate bursts, somewhere between 9 and 15 rounds total.
Put a number on it?
I had 3 to 4, maybe even 5 each volley. It was a series of pops,
Somewhere between 9 and 15 shots in a series.
something like that.
He runs to the ledge and looks down onto Flamingo Boulevard, a line of cars, a white Dodge Stratus, a black BMW, and standing beside the vehicles, a young black man in a bright white shirt, holding a semi-automatic pistol down at his side.
One gentleman was armed, one black male adult, very young, well-dressed. He was wearing a very bright white 3/4 sleeve shirt, black pants, and a black...
Claim 3, though it's less a claim than a limitation hide, is the man who saw the gun. But did he see it fired? Collapse? No, he never saw the shooting itself. He heard the gunfire, then looked over and saw a man holding a weapon. He watched the caravan of cars execute a U-turn and speed away, watched 2 officers give chase. It's powerful testimony, atmospheric, human, exactly the kind of detail that makes a jury feel like they were standing on that ledge. But under cross-examination, the defense forces an admission that cuts right through the drama. He never saw the trigger pulled, not by anyone.
Verify the date and timestamps on the video beyond what was already recorded. The video itself was very grainy. No one could definitively identify anyone in it, but it seemingly established one very important thing, that this attack happened, and it happened on camera. But for the prosecution, they are hoping that in the minds of the jury, it established one very important thing, that a